Good morning, everyone. Welcome in RNQNS classes. Chapter number 15, Understanding 18th Century India. The 18th century in India was characteristic by two critical transactions which al- altered the structure of power and initiated important social and economic changes. The first was the transition in the first half of the country from the Mughal Empire to the regional politic orders. The second was the transition in the polity, society, and economy. In the 18th century, English East India Company traced its way to position of political dominance. The decline of Mughal authority gave rise to emergence of number of independent kingdoms. In this chapter, we will study the emergence of these independent kingdoms in different parts of the country. The aggressive British policies affected the economic situation, the agriculture and non-agricultural production was altered. The commercial activities also underwent changes. These will also be discussed in the character in the chapter. The social and cultural scenario of 18th century will also be analyzed. After studying the lesson, you will be able to explain cause of fall of the Mughal Empire and rise of regional politics, give an account of major political powers that emerged during the period, distinguish the regional variation within the Indian economy of the period, distinguish the regional variation within the Indian economy of the period, identify the features of society and culture in the 18th century, and list the issue involved in understanding the 18th century. Decline of the Mughal Empire. The background. The unity and stability of the Mughal Empire was scanned during the long and strong reign of Emperor Aurangzeb. However, in spite of setbacks and adverse circumstances, the Mughal administration was still quite efficient, and the Mughal army strong of the great Mughals from half of the lesser Mughals. After the death of Aurangzeb, the Mughal authority weakened. It was not in position to military enforces it to its regulation in all parts of the empire. As a result, many provincial governors started to assert that authority. In due course of time, they gained independent status. At the same time, many kingdoms which were subjugated by the Mughals also claimed their independence. Some new regional groups also consolidated and emerged as political powers. With all these developments, the period between 1707 and 1761, Third Battle of Panipat, where Ahmad Shah Abdali defeated the Maratha chiefs, witnessed a resurrection of reason, identified that buttered both political and economic decentralization at the same time. Inter-regional as well as inter-regional trade in local raw material, artifacts, and grains created a strong lie of economic independence irrespective of political and military relations. Passing of the Mughal Empire. In 1707, when Aurangzeb died, serious threat from the periphery had begun to accidental the problem at the core of the empire. The new empire, Bahadur Shah first to or Shah Alam ruled 1707 to 1712, followed a policy uh, of compromise. Pardoning all nobles who had supported these rebels, he granted them appropriate territories and posting. He never abolished jizya, but the efforts to collect the tax were not a fact of Amber. Later, Jaipur and Jodhpur, when his attempt met with firm resistance, he realized the necessity of a settlement with them. However, the settlement didn't restore them to fully com- committed warriors for the Mughal cause. The emperor policy towards the Maratha was also that of half-hearted conciliation. They continued to fight among themselves as well as against the Mughals in the Deccan. Babar Shah was however successful in conciliating Katravasal, the Bundela chief, and Churaman, the Jat chief. The latter also joined him in the campaign against the Sikh. Jahandar Shah ruled 1712 to 13 was weak and ineffective ruler. His Wazir Zulfikar Khan assumed the executive direction of the empire with unprecedented powers. Zulfikar believed that was necessary to establish friendly relation with the Rajputs and Marathas and to consolidating the Hindu chieftains in general in order to save the empire. He revised the policy of Aurangzeb. The hated jizya was abolished. He continued the old policy of suppression against the Sikh. His goal was to reconcile all those who were willing to share power within the Mughal institution framework. Zulfikar Khan made several attempts at reforming the economic system. He, he failed in his efforts to enhance the revenue collection of the state when Farrukhshir, son of the slain Prince Azimush Shah, challenged Jalandhar Shah and Zulfikar Coffee defeated in the disruption. They looted their own places, even ripping gold and silver from the walls and ceiling in order to finance and educate army. Farrukhshir ruled 1713 to 19 on his victory and association to the Sayyid brothers Abdullah Khan and Hussain Ali Khan Bara the Shayyad thus earned the coffee of Wazir and Chief Bakshi and acquired control over the affairs of state. They promoted uh, they promote they promoted the policy initiated earlier by Zulfikar Khan. Jizya and other similar taxes were immediately abolished. The brother finally supposed the Sikh revolt and tried to consolidate finances between the Wazir and the empire. As the group tended to ally themselves with one or the other, the Jats once again started plundering the royal highway between Agra and Delhi. Farrukhshir deputed Raja Jai Singh to lead a punitive campaign against them, but Wazir notable either revolt violently or simply refused to pay assisted revenue. On the other hand, Farrukhshir compounded difficulties in the Deccan by sending letters to some Marathas chief urging them to oppose the forensics of the Deccan governor, who happened to be the deputy and an associate of Syed Hussain Ali Khan. Finally, in 1719, the Syed brothers uh, brought Ajit Singh of Jodhpur and a Maratha force to Delhi, deposed the emperor. The murder of Farrukhshir created a wave of revolutions against the Sayyid among the various factions of nobility who were also jealous of the growing power. Many of these, in a particular the old nobles of Aurangzeb time rescinded uh, uh, Aurangzeb time rescinded the Wazir in encouragement of revenue farming, which in their view was mere shopkeeping and violated the age-old Mughal notion of statecraft. In Farrukhshire, place of the Sayyid brothers raised to the throne three young princes in quick succession within 8 months. In 1719, two of these Rafi ud Darajat and Rafi ud Dwalaha. Shah Jahan II died of consumption. The third, who assumed the title of Muhammad Shah, exhibited sufficient vigor to send about freeing himself from the brothers' control. A powerful group under the leadership of the Nizam ul Mulk Chin Kulik Khan and his father's cousin Muhammad Amin Khan. The two eminent nobles emerged finally to dissolve the Shayyad brothers 1720. By the time Muhammad Shah ruled 1719 to 48, almost completely changed. The individual interest of the nobles had come to guide the Abdullah Khan as Wazir after Ami Khan death January 1720. The office was occupied by the Nizam ul Mulk for a brief period until Ami Khan's son Kumar Uddin Khan assumed the title in July 1724, a claim hereditary right. The nobles themselves virtually dedicated these appointments. By this time, the nobles had assumed of powers. They used to get permanence issued in the name of emperor in their favor of the position of emperor was preserved as a symbol only without real power. The real power seated with important group of nobles in the nobles in control of the center stability of the region where they had their jagirs, farmers, mandates granting certain right to special privileges to governor, Fauzdar and other local officials were sent in conformity with tradition in the same of the emperor. Individual falling of Aurangzeb's successor also contributed to the decline of royal authority. Uh, Shah lacked dignity and decency. Farrukhshir was strict-minded. Muhammad Shah was frivolous and fond of ease and luxury. Opinion of the emperor favorite weight in the appointment, promotion, and dis, uh, dismissal even in provinces. The rise of regional politics and state. The state that arose in India during the phase of Mughal decline and the following century, roughly 1700 to 1850, uh, varied greatly in terms of resources, longevity, and essential character. Some of them, such Hyderabad in the south, was located in and had an older local or regional tradition or of state formation. Others were states that had a more original character and derived from a very specific process that had taken place in the course of the late 16th and 17th century. In particular, many of the post-Mughal states were based on ethnic or sectarian grouping, the Marathas, the Jats, and the Sikh. In due course, the enrichment of the region inbounded local land and power holders to take up arms against external authority. However, mutual rivalry and conflict prevented these rebels from consolidating their interest into an effective challenge to the empire. They relied on support from kinsfolk, peasant, and smaller zamindar of their own castes. Each local group wanted to maximize to share of the prosperity at the expenses of the others. The necessity of imperial symbol was inherent in the kind of power or politics that emerged. Each of the contenders in the region, in proportion of or to his strength, looked for and seized opportunity to establish his dominance over others in neighborhood. They all needed a kind of legitimacy which was so conventionally available in long accepted authority of Mughal Empire. They had no fear in collectively accepting the symbolic hegemony of the Mughal center, which had come to coexist with their ambitions. The gradual weakening of the central authority set in motion new type of provisional kingdoms. Nobles with ability the strength sought to build a regional base for themselves. The Wazir Chinchlik Khan himself showed the path, having failed to reform the administration. He relinquished his office in 1723, and in October 1724 marched south to establish the state of Hyderabad in the Deccan. The Mughal court chief concern at this stage was to ensure the flow of necessary revenue from the provinces and in maintenance of at least the semblance of imperial unity, seizing pension and overall Malwa, Gujarat, and Buldenkhand. Uh, then in 1738 to 39, Nadir Shah, who had established himself as the ruler of Iran, invaded India. The uh, the the Maratha power. There is no doubt that a single most important power that emerged in long 12th of Mughal dynasty was the Maratha. The most important Maratha warrior clan was the Vanshans. Shivaji Bhosle emerged as the most powerful figure in the southern politics. The good fortune of Shivaji didn't fall to his son and successor Sambhaji and his younger brother Rajaran. For a time. It appreciated that Maratha power was on decline, but a recovery was effected in early 18th century. In the somewhat changed circumstances, a particularly important phase in his respect in the region of Shahu, who succeeded who succeeded Raja Ram in 1708. Sahu reign lasted for four decades up to 1749. It was 1749. It was marked by the ascendancy of the uh, ascendancy of Linens of Chiptavam, uh, Brahman minister who virtually came to control central authority in the Maratha state. The Bhosle will reduce to figureheads hold central authority in Maratha state. The Bhosle were reduced to figureheads holding in the title of Peshwa, chief minister, the first truly prominent figure of this line in mm, Balaji Vishwanath, who had helped Sahu in his rise to power. Uh, Vishwanath and his successor Baji Rao, first Peshwa between 1722 and 740, managed to bureaucratize the Maratha state to a far greater extent than had been the case under the early Bhosle. They systematized the practice of tribute gathering from Mughal territory under the head of Sardes Mukhi and Chauth, the two terms corresponding to the proportion of tribute collected. They seem to have consolidating method of assessment and collection of land revenue and other taxes on the line of the Mughal. Much of the revenue terminology used in the documents of the Peshwa and his subordinates derives from Persian. This suggests a greater continue between the Mughal and Maratha revenue practice. The Maratha Confederacy. By the close of Shahu design, a few powerful Maratha kingdoms were in complete control of their territories. This period saw the development of sophisticated network of trade, banking, and finance in the territories under the control. The banking house based at Pune had their branches in Gujarat, Ganga, Ganga's Valley, and South. Attention was also paid to the maritime affairs. Balaji Vishwanath took some care of cultivate the Agria clan, which controlled a fleet of vessels based in Kolaba and other central of the west coast. These ships posted a threat not only to the new English settlement of the Bombay but to the Portugal basin and Daman. On the other hand, there also emerged for larger domain of activity away from the original heartland of the Maratha of these chief. The most important were to the Gavars, the Sindhas, and the Holkars. Also, there were branches of the Bhosle family that relocated to Kalapur and Nagpur, while the main line remained in the Deccan um, heartland at Satara. Let us examine their area of influence. The Bhosle at Nagpur. Unlike the Kolhapur, Bhosle and the descendants of Vyamkozi at Thanvisit, both of them whose claimed a status equal to that of Satara's Raja, the line of Nagpur was clearly subordinate to the Satara rulers. A crucial figure from his line is Raghuji Bhosle, ruled 1727 to 55, who responsible for the Maratha incursion on Bengal and Bihar in the 1714s and early 1750s. The relations of his successor Jonshi, Sabaji, and Madhoji with the Peshwa and the Satara's line were really, and it in the sense that these domains can be regarded as only loosely confederated rather than tightly bound together. Other can be regarded as only loosely confederated rather than tightly bound together. Other subordinate rulers were who emerged under the overarching umbrella provided by the Satara ruler and his Peshwa were equally somehow opportunity in their use of politics. The Gaekwads of Baroda. The Gaekwads gathered prominence in 1720. Initially, they were subordinate not only of the Bhosle but also to the powerful Dahabed family. However, it was only after the death of Sahu when the power of the Peshwa was further enhanced that in the position of the Gazwars truly improved. By the early 1750s, that right on large position or portion of the revenue of Gujarat were recognized the Peshwa. The expulsion of the Mughal governor of the Gujarat province from the capital of Ahmedabad in 1752. The seal of the process, the Gedwas preferred, however, to establish their capital in rule of Baroda of Dabaji 1768 was followed by a period of some turmoil. The Dani in moments of succession crisis, the eventual successor of Dabaji Fetch Singh ruled 1771 to 89 didn't remain aligned to the Peshwa for long. In the late 1770s and early 1780s he chose to negotiate to settlement with the English East India Company, which eventually lead to increased British interference in the affairs. By 1800, the British rather than the Peshwa were the final arbiters in determining succession among the Gaekwad, who become the subordinate rulers under them in 19th century. The whole cars of Indore. In the case of Holkars, the rise of status and wealth was particularly prepared that marked initially they had very little political power. However, by 1730s, the chief Malhar Rao Holkar consolidated his position. He was granted a large share of the Chauth collection in Malwa, eastern Gujarat and Khandesh within a few years. Malwar Rao consolidated his own principality at Lahore, from which his successor controlled important trade routes as well as crucial trading center of Burhapur. After him, control of the dynastic fortune fell largely to his son widow Ahilya Bai, who ruled from 1765 to 1794 and brought whole car power to great glory. Nevertheless, their success couldn't equal that of the next great chieftain family in the Sindhias. The Sindhis of Gwalior. The Sindhis carved a prominent place to themselves in the North Indian politics in the decades followed the Third Battle of Panipat 1761. Again, like two whole cars, the Sindhis were based largely in central India, first at Ujjain and other from the last quarter of the 18th century in Gwalior. During the long reign of uh, Mahadeji Scindia 761 to 94 family fortune were truly consolidated. Mahadai proved an effective and innovative military commander. He employed a large number of European soldiers in his force. His power grew rapidly after 1770. During this period, the managed to make substantial inroads into North India that had been weak this period. He managed to make substantially inroads into North India that had been weakened by Afghan attacks. He inverted with some effect in the Mughal court during the reign of Shah Alam II. The Mughal king made him the deputy regent of his affairs in the mid 1780s. His shadow fell not only across the provinces of Delhi and Agra but also in Rajasthan and Gujarat, making him the most formidable Maratha leader of the era. The officials of the East India Company were very cautious dealing with him. His relation with the acting Peshwa Nana Fadnashi at Pune were fought with the tension. Eventually, the monument mm, uh, generated by Mahadis couldn't be maintained by his successor Daulat Rao Scindia, ruled 1794 to 1827, who was defeated by the British and forced that by the treachery in 1803 to surrender his territory both to the north and the west. The carriers of the sum of these potentates, especially Mahadaji Scindia, institution the prominency of the Mughal symbols even in the face of Mughal decline. For instance, after recap tendency recap turning Gwalior from the British, Mahadiji took care to have his control of town and sanctioned by the Mughal Empire. Equally, the jealously granted by the privileges, the titles granted to him by Shah Alam, such as Amir ul Umera, head of the Amir, and Naib Bawi Mutlab, a deputy regent. In this, he was not alone. Instant in the 18th century of state that wholly through of all pretense of the allegiance of to the Mughals are rate rather of the Mughal system honors and titles as well as Mughal derived administration terminology and fiscal practices continue despite the decline of imperial power. The Nawab of Bengal, Murshid Kulik Khan, who started his career as Diwan of Bengal under Aurangzeb, became virtually independent with the growing weakening of the central authority. However, he regularly sent tribute to the Mughal Empire. Ali Vardi Khan deposed the family of Murshid Quli Khan and made himself of the Nawab in 1739. These Nawab brought stability and peace and promoted agriculture, trade, and industry. Equal opportunity were given to the both Hindus and Muslims, but the Nawabs couldn't visualize the long-term implications of the presence of the European trading companies and regulated military presence in 1756 to 1757. The successor of Ali Vardi Khan, Siraz ud Daula, and had to fight the English East India Company over the trading rights. His defeat in the Battle of Plassey in June 1757 paved the way of subjugations of Bengal as well as India. The Nawabs of Awadh, with the weakening of central control, the Mughal Suba of Awadh also saw emerging ambition of the provincial governor Saadat Khan. Burma Mulk Saadat Khan disciplined the local zamindar and gave shape to well-paid, well-armed and well-trained army before his death in 1739. Saadat Khan made by provincial had a hereditary position. His successor Shabdag Jung and Azaf Uddaula not only played very decisive role in the politics of northern India but also gave a long-term administrative stability to the Nawabi of Awadh under the Nawab. Firstly, Faizabad and then Lucknow become the cultural revival of Delhi in the sphere of arts, literature, and crafts. Regional architecture reflected itself in the form of Imbraha and other building. The evolution of the dance from the Kathak was the outcome of cultural systems. The Sikh of Punjab. The Mughal forced suppressed the Sikh under Banda Bahadur, but this didn't put on era to Sikh resistance to Mughal authority. In the 1720 and 1730, Amir Shah emerged as a center of Sikh activities, mainly become of premises as a pilgrimage center, as a center of Sikh activity, mainly uh, Kanpur, Kapoor Singh, the most important of the Sikh leader of the time, operated from the dignity. He gradually set about consolidating a revenue come military system. Some Sikh group also started consolidating themselves as a political force. These activities discouraged the attempts by Mughal governor of Lahore Shubha to set up an uh, independent power base of themselves in the region. First, Abdus Samad Khan and then his son Zakaria Khan attempted to control sovereign power. After the latter demise in 1745, the balance shifted still further the favor of the Sikh warrior leaders such as Jhasa Singh Ahluwalia. He later on founded the kingdom of Kapurthala. The mushrooming of pockets under the authority of Sikh leader was thus a feature of the 2 decades preceding Ahmad Shah Abdali invasion of the Punjab. The process 2 decades preceding Ahmad Shah Abdali invasion of the Punjab, the process of the this process was evident in the eastern Punjab and Bari Doho through the principal opposition faced by Abdali in the campaign of the 1750s to 60s in the Punjab came from the Sikh Maratha and also played a role of significance on the occasions. Eventually, by the mid 1760s, Sikh authority over Lahore was established, and the Afghans were not able to consolidate their early gains under the Ahmad Shah. successor Timur Shah ruled 770 to 93. Some of the territories and towns that had been taken from the Sikhs, such as Multan, were recovered from the descendants of Ahmad Shah, continued to harbor ambition in the direction until the end of the century. But by the 1770s, they were dealing with the confederation of the about 66 chieftains. Some of these were to emerge as a principally states under the British, such as Nabha and Patila. The Sikh Chambolan continued many of the administration practices initiated by the Mughals. The main subordinate of the chief were given Jagir assistance. The personalized culture of the Mughal bureaucracy continued to hold sway. It was also such Chief Ranjit Singh, grandson of Charhat Singh Shurkeria, who eventually welded this principally for a brief time to a large city in Troli. Ranjit Singh eventually lasted 4 decades from 1799 to 39. The power of the English East India Company was growing in all parts of the country. During this period, within 10 years for his death, the British and annexed Punjab. His rise to power, who based on superior military force that he had inherited um, from his father Ranjit Singh. Kingdoms represented the culmination of nearly century of Sikh rebellion against Mughal rule. It was based on intelligent application of principal statecraft. He used as a capital the great trading city of Lahore, which his captured in 1799. Having gained control the trade routes, the imposed monopolize on the trade in salt, grain and textile from Kashmir to enhance his revenue. Using these earning, he built up an army of 40,000 cavalry and infantry. By the years 1809, he was undisputed master of the most of Punjab. Jaipur and other Rajput Raj Jaipur and other uh, Rajputan state Rajputana state. Jaipur, early Amber in eastern Rajasthan, was a Rajput principally controlled by the Kachwa clan. In the early 18th century, the ruled Jai Singh Savai took a step to increase his power manifold. This was done by arranging to have his Jagir assessment in victory of his home territory by taking on rights on land revenue through farming for collection of land tax rights on a parcel of land that rented by the state to an individual, which was gradually made permanent by the time of his death in 1743. Jaising, after whom Jaipur came to named, had emerged as the single most important ruler in the regime. Most of the larger Rajput states were constantly involved in petty quarrel and civil wars. Ajit Singh of Marwar, who killed by his own son in the 1750s, Suraj Mal, the ruler of Bharatpur, like Jai Singh, adopted a modified form of Mughal revenue administration in his territory. However, by his the time, the frontier of the Jai Singh kingdoms were seriously in a question under the threat from the Marathas. Resources had to taken adopt short-time fiscal exceptions. At the same time, a series of crop failures in the 1750s and 60s adversely affected fragile agriculture. The second half of the 18th century was thus marked by an economic depression, accompanied by the decline in the political power of Jaipur. During the period of Jaipur become a voluntary target for the ambition of the Marathas and Maharaja and Mahadai Sindhia in the particular. The state discussed so far, with the exceptions of Maratha, were all landlocked. This didn't mean that trade was not an important element in their makeup for the kingdom of Ranjit Singh was crucially linked to trade. However, lack of accessions to sea greatly increased the vulnerability of state, particularly in the era when the major power was the English East India Company itself, initially maritime enterprises. Politics, South India. Politics in South India. In South, unlike the area discussed for several states didn't make determine within the period of consolidating their power by the use of accession of sea and ports. Principal among these were Tranvankiria in Kerala under the Martanda Verma and Rama Verma and Major under Hyder Ali and Tipu Sultan. These states rose to prominence only in latter half of 18th century or at least after 1740. Before that, its southern Indian scene and had been dominated by a group of Muslim notables who had occupied by the Mughal expansion into the region of the 1680s and 1619, or else had came to second wave that followed immediately after 1700. Many of these notables set themselves as a tribute paying chief under Mughal authority. Some of them were relatively a petty nobles, deputies of the Balaghat of northern Karnataka, such as Abdul Rasool Khan of Sira. A few of them were political heavyweights like the Nizam ul Mulk himself and Sidullah Khan at Arod. The Nizam ul Mulk had consolidated his position in Hyderabad by the 1740, where the Akrot principality had emerged some of three decades earlier. Neither of these rulers, while establishing the dynasty succession, claimed full sovereignty. Thus, the continued to east continued the caste themselves to representation of Mughal authority. Southern Indian politics in the 1720 emerged therefore a game with many pretty players, and these formidable ones, the Marathas, both at the Tanjore and elsewhere, the Nizam and the Akrot or Karnataka Nawab. In the second half of the 18th century, the power of all three center declined. The successful struggle Akrot in the 1740 and early 1750 left in the ruler of open to financial manipulations by private British merchants to whom they were in creating in debt for war expansion. In 1715, the power of Hyderabad also declined after the death of his founder, the Nizam ul Mulk. The control of the Constable district was soon lost, leaving the kingdoms landlocked and relatively sparsely populated. In this context, the only option for state was to build an elaborate and well-organized war machine while keeping extremely supply lines open. The control of trade was also seen to crucial in statecraft of the period. The state of Taravankor. These principles were put into practice into the southern Kerala state of Venad Tanavakol by Martanga Verma, ruled 1729 to 58. The king initiated a, a few measures I strength in his authority. These were first he built his subsequently standing army of about 50,000, reduced the power of the Nayar aristocracy on which rulers in area had early been independent military, and fortified the northern limits of uh, of his kingdoms at his so-called Taran line. It was also the policy of the ruler of means as means of limiting European involvement in trade. The key commodity was paper, but other goods also came to be defined as royal monopoly items requiring a license for trade. These policies were continued a large measure by Martanga successor Rama Verma, ruled 1758 to 98, who was able to defend his kingdoms successfully against a dangerous new revival power Masur. The rise of Masur under ruler of the Vaidya dynasty, such as Kandirava, Narsiraja, and Chikka Deva. Raja Masoor emerged as an important state. However, Masoor was a landlocked kingdom and independent. Therefore, trade and military supplies brought through the Indian East Coast. As these ports came increasingly under European control, Masoor voluntary increased from the 1760s. Step was taken to change the situation. A cavalry commander, the migrate Oisin Hyder Ali, assumed effective power on the kingdom in 1761, reducing the Vaidyas to figures and had disciplined the powerful Kalal family of minister first Hyder, and then after 1782 his son Tipu Sultan made attempts to consolidate in Mysore and make it kingdom with accession is not one but both of coast of peninsular India against the Kondwas, the inhabitants of the upland kingdoms of Kodala, Korg. They were relatively succession. Coastal Karnataka and northern Kerala came under their shores, enabling Tipu to open diplomatic and commercial relation on his own account with Middle East. Tipu ambition apparatively greatly accented those of his father, and he strove activity to escape the all perceived shadow of Mughal supremacy as discussed above. However, the problem with the Masoor of Hyder and Tipu was their inability to build an internal consensus. Their dependence on migrate and mercenaries for both military and fiscal exports was considerably, and they were always resisted by local chiefs they called oligarchs. More crucial was the fact that the 1770 Masoor faced a formidable military adversary in the form of English East India Company, which didn't allow it any breathing room. It was English who declined Masoor access is the relatively rich agricultural lands and ports of the Coromandel coastal plain in eastern India. The Tipu also finally killed in 1799 by English forces. The economy in 18th century India. The 18th century can hardly be said to exhibit any substantial economic continuity between its earlier and latter parts. It was a period of consolidated political terminology in India. One it is have which state which formed and dissolved quick in succession. That there was a great deal of fluidity in the system. It formed and dissolved in quick succession, that there was a great deal of fluidity in the system. It is course of the true that raid of military forces could would have caused dislocation, the destruction of irrigation tanks, the forcible exploitation of cattle wealth, and even the forced march of masses of people were not unknown in the wars of the 1770, and thereafter all these must have had a harmful effect on economic stability and economic stability and curtailed and and impulsive towards growth. When viewed from Delhi, the 18th century, it is certainly a gloomy period. The attacks of Nadir Shah, then Ahmad Shah Abdali, and finally the attacks by the Rohilla of Nadir Shah, or who controlled Delhi in 1761 to 71, put the city in a state of regular destruction. This perspective can hardly have been shared by the inhabitants of the other center in India, whether in Thiruvananthapuram Pune, Patna, or Jaipur, there was a process of economic reorientation that accompanied the political decentralization of the era, and it account of this that of experience of Delhi and Agra can't be generalized. Uh, However, the condition of different regions were not uniform in the same of first half of the 18th century. Witnessed continuous expansion. Bengal, Jaipur, and Hyderabad were, for example, while some of the others late bloomers, as in case of Tranquil Masoor of the Punjab. No single chronological of economic prosperity and decline is likely, therefore, to fit all the region of India in approach. Despite some of the weekend and contradictions, the economy of the 18th century performed well in sphere of agriculture, inland trade, and unauthorization. These were some areas which saw agriculture decline often because of inner state warfare, as the Punjab and parts of North India lack of new agriculture method and technique was overcome with the experience and management of land and labor. Data of Tikum papers used and compared with Akbari proves that it was not the lack of cultivable land, but lack of labor and peace, which has resulted into declining agriculture production and fluctuating agriculture prices, as well as at the same time the price rise beneficiable the peasant but unequally according to vertically divided section of peasantly state extended tribute from system of agriculture commodity production that tried villages to expansive network of commercial mobility and exchange. It is noteworthy that aspect of a major subsistence crisis in the South India between 1702 and 1704, the first 7 decades of 18th century in India were remarked free of famine. The Great Bengal Famine of 1717, which estimated one third of the population, perhaps occurred soon after the colonial conquest. This was followed by another highly mobile peasant tribal labor or to negligible reasonable term with control of land, but he exclusive revenue demands made the peasant dissection a regular phenomena, particularly in now North India. While some of village the peasant destruction in a irregular phenomenon, particularly in North India, while some villages notable managed transform revenue from population, production, price, and wages, tending generally speaking to be on gentle upward incline during the 18th century. The fragmenting politics didn't hamper of the development of thriving in land trade in grain, uh, cloth, and cattle. Corporated merchant institution translated political boundary in overseeing and transportation of goods and provision of credit and insurance services. Pre-colonial and era artisan labor especially wears the ample of scope for successfully restricting extravagant demands by intermediary social group and state, even in institution state late 18th century Masood appeared to attack intermediary rather than labor. Evidence from Bengal and Madras suggests that urban labor was worse off in relation to the state and marked in the early colonial than in the immediate pre-colonial period. While in inland trade it didn't well, the Indian shippers and merchant involved in export trade declined in face of European advances. The great Gujarati port city of Surat lost in importance around 1720. These were recognized of demand of Indian goods in both West and Southeast Asia in late 18th century. Additionally, in Europe, demand, but by now British merchant and shippers had achieved dominance of by the expenses of Indian and took the bulk of the profits. As the old commercial center of Surat, Machilipatnam, the Dhaka, December colonial port cities like Bombay, Madras, and Calcutta took like pride of place, but the decline of the Mughal capital of Delhi and Agra was officiate of the rise of regional capitals including Lucknow, Hyderabad and the various Maratha cities. The Sri Pagramapatnam, the level of urbanization was the relative balance of power between rulers and merchants. In the some instant commercial and financial magnates were finance magnates were arrogating themselves the power of the state. It would also appear for a variety of reasons that the mid 18th century marks a significant change in economic sphere. For example, once in English East India Company got hold on revenue of a Bengal Shubas, the flow of money was adversely affected while earlier Bengal received gold and silver in exchange for its export. The pattern of longer held. In latter of part of 18th century, the peasants were forced to cultivate certain cash crop like indigo and opium. The had adverse impact on the food crop production, but another reason why the latter of half of the 18th century differ from the period before about 1750 is the changing character of war. In the post 1750 period, welfare the become more descriptive as of civil life and economic production than the before, and the same time of the new technology in the use of made it for more expansion of proposition, the use of frames on a large scale, the employment of merchandise in the maintenance of standing armies, all of these harmful effects. The social context, the social life of 18th century in India was India was continuation of the past legacy, despite some universal feature of social culture unity throughout India over the centuries. There was no uniformity in social pattern. The society was divided into multi-layered, identified on the basis of religion, reason, tribe, language, class, and caste. Hindu were divided on the basis of hundred of castes. The caste was decided by birth, fixing the permanent place of people in the society hierarchy into the caste merchants and inner caste during the forbidden traditional caste was the basis of the profession, but by the 18th century to some extent social and professional mobility and was the being followed. For example, Brahman started adopting various pregnancy and pursuing trading activities. The caste continued to be a major device force. Muslims were also influenced by the consolidation the race, caste, tribe, and status. The Sikhs and Sunnis had major religion differences, while the Irani, Afghani, Turani, and Hindustani Muslim had of lots of differences to stand apart from the each other. People cultivates a particular pattern. Expect Kerala, where multi system was prevalent. Women were expected to live as a role of models or idea daughters, wives, and mothers. Women of upper class in the North India had to follow of parda. Child marriage was prevalent. And marriage was social obligation between the two family. Among the upper class by polygamy and dowry was prevalent. But the greater even of 18th century India were the custom of sati and the condition of the widows among the Hindu. The education system was couldn't change according to the requirement of the time. The circulation of the was conflicting the literature, languages, law, religion, philosophy, and logic, and excluded the study of physical and natural science, technology, and geography. There was a lack of progressive idea of theoretical framework dominant elementary and Persian only. Moreover, this education excluded female and low caste people. The culture the culture milieu. It is generally maintained that the 18th century witnessed a general decline in material life. The literature life of period also have an often been delineated. However, there were appear to a little justification for a such portrayal of 18th century. Even Delhi, whose economic condition uniformity decline, had a number of uh, measure of poets, philosophers, and thinkers in his epoch, from the Shah of Mir Tuki Mir further. His regional course grew importance. They tended to take to the function of the principal pattern of the high court, whether in music, the visual art, literature, it is that also a relatively. They tended to take a function of the principal pattern of high courts, the where is the music, the visual art of literature in this also relatively dispersed center ranging from Awadh to Bikaner and Lahore to Tanjore that in finds courtly tradition of the culture presenting the Tanjore under the Maratha is a particular in Tamil, Telugu, Sanskrit and Marathi continuities and 18th century Tanjore that a main composition of what is today known the Karnataka tradition of the Indian classical music come to written by the same name as Tyag Raja, Muthuswami Dikshitar and Shyama Sastri. Finally, the period brought the development of distinct style of painting, Tanjore fusing element imported from north the with older local tradition of textile painting. This the military was not resisted purely to elect culture to begin with. Many of the theatre and music tradition as well as former literature genre of the period picked up and um, incorporated folk influences. At the same time, the interaction of popular Hindustan and Islam gave a particular flavor to cultural activities associated with the pilgrimage and festival more than in earlier century. The tradition of long distance pilgrimage to major centers from Varanasi to Rameshwaram increased from and scan to seem to fit with the general trade increasing mobility. It was a common post Mughal state to employ emergency soldiers and imported scribes and clerks. In 18th century, Hyderabad, for example, Kathas and the some north were imposed in fiscal office as early the 1720s. It apparent and mobility of musician, man of letter, and artisans was widely prevalent when the major new political center emerged. It rapidly attract talent as evident in Ranjit Singh Lahore. Here, Persian literature of high equality and was produced but not in cost of literacy output in Punjabi. At the same time, new developments were visible in field of architecture and painting farther to the north and the principally of Kangara hosted an important new school of painting devoted largely to Vishwana themes. The culture association was the outcome to of mutual influence and the respect among the major religion of the Maratha supported of the Sign and Sikh Munidian cyst in Ajmer and Raja of Tanjore, finance of Sirin, of Sikh Sahul Hamid of Nagore, Tipu Sultan of Mysore supported a Sri Giri temple and Muslim joyfully participated in the Hindu festivals just as the Hindus were part of the Muharram processions. Indeed, a surprisingly large proportion of what is understand today is a part of India tradition culture is an attribute to this period. It is also preceding century. Debate and problem understanding the history of 18th century. In the debate on the nature of 18th century has engaged historian of Mughal India as well as those interested in canonical studied early Mughal studied view the over of all change in the shadow of Mughal political collapse and project as dark ages. Thus, Mughal political crisis in the scene to accompany the by economic and social breakdown as well. However, later studies exclamation 18th century economic and society in regional perspective preceding the beginning of the colonial rule that characteristic the second half of the century, 18th century. Thus, the two positions argue around continuously versus change the paradigm. Generally, Indian historian prescribes the colonial conquest, which is began from the mid 18th century, as a point of department for Indian history. So, the basis of issue pertaining to the 18th century are to whether the fall of Mughal Empire initiated to fall a socio-economic structure, as well as secondly whether the arrival of colonial was fundamental break or not. Was the 18th century a dark age of or was it a period of economic boom? It didn't was a sharp break or was it is a period of continuously and change. How British power in India expand during the 18th century? These and other questions concerning the nature of politics, society, economy, religion, and culture made of study of history of 18th century. Highly debatable historians have traditionally viewed India 18th century as a dark era of welfare, political choose, and economic decline, sandwiched between stable and prosperous Mughal and British hegemonies. This view for the vigorously challengeable by the most recent generation of Indian history, who have emphasized the contribution between the early Mughal and later of British state and the consolidated snail successor state that emerged with the being the of Mughal power. The political terminology which affected the whole century forces one to ask whether the fall of the Mughal Empire lead to break the central political authority, tributing the face of archaeology, firstly leading to the first rise of regional kingdoms, then paving the way of dominance of British colonialism. Here it is important to understand whether it's just the decline of Mughal state should be have to failure of Indian society, as well as vacuum created by the fall of central authority filled by the regional power, namely Nawab Awadh and Bengali Nizam Hyderabad in the first half of the century. Moreover, whether is the emergence British East India Company of us as our political power as a was break the India society, economy, and polity, or mark the beginning of next 100 years of British colonialism in India. What you have learned. That lesson deals with the history of the 18th century. It provides a brief account of the later Mughal rulers, their weakness and difficulties, and it also tracks the gradual rise of the Mughal nobility and eventually distributions of the Mughal Empire. The lesson marks the breaking of up to central authority, leading to the emergence of the regional kingdoms such as Hyderabad, Awadh, and Bengal. The contribution of the regional rulers as well as internal conflict are also highlighted. Emergence of the Maratha Confederacy, and finally the breakups of Maratha into five Maratha kingdoms of Bhosle, Gaekwads, Holkar, Sindhia, and Satara was another important phase. The power of Peshwa and some of important administrative features and are also mentioned. Consolidation of Sikh under the Maharaja Ranjit Singh, rise of Rajput states, the contribution of these kingdoms towards Indian administration, polity, and culture of the being explained in brief. The latter half of 18th century saw important developments. Rise of Mysore state under the Hyder Ali and Tipu Sultan is the worth mentioning. Coming of the East India Company, the conflict of the between Mysore and Company marks of beginning of the new phase of Indian political scene. Along with the political development, the lesson also deals with the new features of the Indian economy. Discuss the reason of the decline of Indian agriculture and export trade, paving the way of colonial economy. While in many ways of social condition remain stagnant, the 18th century India also witnessed various new traits in economy and culture field. Because of the complex nature of 18th century India polity and economy, there are divergent view among the historian about the nature of these developments. Now chapter is closed. Thank you everyone.